Hello and welcome to Slate Money, your guide to the business and finance news of the week. I'm Felix Salmon. I am here with Emily Peck of Axios.
Hello, hello.
I'm here with Elizabeth Spires of the New York Times.
Hello.
We are going to talk about state capitalism, the country getting involved in private businesses and telling them what to do and extracting money from it. And guess who the great avatar of this is? Well, you've already guessed. We're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about wrench attacks and how to stop yourself from getting kidnapped and losing a finger if you're a crypto gazillionaire. We are going to talk about Chrome and how central it is, the piece of software that is, not the metal, to the entire world and especially to Emily's life and how much money it might be worth in the world of AI. We have a Slate Plus segment on rain stoppers and whether there's any correlation between price and quality if you're paying someone to make sure there's no rain on your wedding day. It's a fun one this week, so it's all coming up on Slate Money.
You're about to make a trade. Which you do you listen to? Is it get optioning those options? Or let's do a little research. Learn more at finra.org/trade-smart.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
So I think the big news of the week is probably the quasi-nationalization of the entire technology industry by Donald Trump. Emily, can you bring me up to speed here because I'm not sure I understand what's going on?
So, the conventional wisdom of the week is that Donald Trump is practicing some kind of state-funded shakedown capitalism. The example earlier this week was the announcement that the U.S. is going to take a 15% cut on chip sales to China that NVIDIA and Advanced Micro devices sell into China, that the U.S. government will take a 15% share. It's really not clear why this policy would exist.
It's also, just to be clear, it's also not clear whether this policy is even constitutional. There is an actual clause in the Constitution saying you can't implement an excise tax, a tax on exports, and this very much looks like a tax on exports. So yes. Plan B, I think, is to do what he's doing with Intel, which, Elizabeth, apparently is what?
He wants Intel to basically give the U.S. government some equity, and he's been calling for the ouster of their CEO because of his ties to China.
Oh, wait, he doesn't want to buy this 15% stake. Really? He just wants it for free?
Yeah, that's my understanding of it. Yeah.
There's been reporting, I don't think the White House has confirmed, that the Trump administration wants to take partial ownership of Intel.
Yeah, I definitely read we want an equity stake in Intel bit, but I thought at least they would do that in exchange for throwing more money into Intel and hopefully maybe bringing Intel
you say
into
that like you
future.
Think Donald Trump is a rational president who thinks about this as an investment in an American company, but he has not behaved that way up to this point.
Like we saw this with U.S. Steel. The White House uses leverage, aka can Nippon buy U.S. Steel, and they have control over that. And so if they want that deal to happen, if U.S. Steel and Nippon want the deal to happen, the White House says, okay, well, we want a golden share in the company. There's no and we'll give you money. So why would there be, and we'll give you money with Intel? It's more like we'll allow you to operate. And that's why people are calling it, state-funded capitalism, socialism, whatever.
Somebody called it Cosa Nostra capitalism, which is sort of it's just mob behavior.
If you want to sell your chips to China, you need to pay me.
If you want to operate your restaurant in our neighborhood, you must pay tribute every week.
And honestly, I feel like Tim Cook got this right? Instead of paying 15% of all of his exports to China, he just presents Trump with a gold plaque and that's got to be cheaper.
The move, and I wrote about this a few weeks ago with my colleague Eleanor Hawkins, but I mean, the move is you, like Apple and other companies, you announce that you're investing in the United States. Often you repackage things you're already doing. I think Apple has done this and sort of like package it as like, we're doing this now because the White House, wants us to do more manufacturing in the US. And look, we're working with Corning to make our glass in the US, when in fact, like Apple's been doing that all along. And then the White House gets something for a press release or a ceremony, an award in the case of Apple. But I guess some companies are less successful, and then they wind up, you wind up hearing this stuff.
But I mean, we don't know what it means, right? This is one of the things that's super interesting about all of this, is that it's a little bit like all of those promises of hundreds of billions of dollars of investment in the US that were made by Japan and Europe in order to get their trade deals. They're like promises, and no one can agree on what was promised or how it was promised. And kind of no one really believes that it's ever going to happen. And it's certainly not even really enforceable. Like there's nothing that the European Union can do to force European companies to invest in the United States. And so it all just lives in the world of vibes and sound bites. And there is a part of me that wonders whether, Donald Trump has got his vibe and his soundbite now from NVIDIA saying like, we're going to take 15% of your H2O exports. And if it never actually happens, then no one's going to be too upset. But then there's another part of me that says Donald Trump has this massive stack of chits from all the big law firms. We have talked about this on the pod of like, we are going to give you a gazillion hours of pro bono work for reasons. And I'm sure that like at the top of that list of things that he's going to ask, Kirkland and Ellis to paper up is like, find a way to get 15% of Intel's chip sales to China.
Well, I think it's easier with, the European handshake deals for Trump to kind of elide whether or not they actually go through, because, how are people going to really keep track of that? But NVIDIA is a public company. So if suddenly they're getting, 15% off the top of revenues, I think people would notice, or if they weren't.
Well, the revenues are going to be the revenues. And then the remittances to the government are going to be the remittances to the government. And then the big question is whether they break down those remittances to the government and there's like a specific line item out with the, normal taxes that says, special Trump tribute that we have to pay in order to sell our chips to China. And I suspect that NVIDIA won't do that.
Well, as a former equity analyst, you would notice a remittance was just completely outsized. And I think a 15% take of revenue would be, you would notice it in that line whether they broke it out or not.
Well, it's not 15% of all revenue. Yeah, it's just the H2O chips, and it's only the H2O chips that are being sold to China. So that's a small fraction of their total revenue. Yeah.
I just want to interject and say that I've only read about this, and I thought it was H20, and I feel... just thank you for bringing into my life that it's H2O chips.
They're quite liquid assets,
I've been thinking a lot about this, but I haven't articulated yet. So I'm debuting it here, the articulation. But I mean, for the past decades, the US has been cutting taxes, the Trump administration more than the latest to do it, especially on companies. But like Trump's policy is raising taxes. It's raising taxes. This 15% cut of the H2O chips is, a tax.
Nothing
tariffs
compared
are
to
a tax.
Tariffs are tax.
So their plan is just tax companies, tax people, and do it in these like weird ways without Congress.
Trump is economically illiterate. He can't hold more than two ideas in his head at once. And so the sort of counterbalancing of anything that he might be doing to, boost the economy with the stuff that he's doing to crash it. Like he just doesn't think about it that way.
I actually give him more credit than that for this one. I think there's something important going on here, which is that there are two different types of taxes, broadly speaking. Historically speaking, 99.9% of taxes have been the taxes that are imposed by Congress and get passed by Congress because Congress has the power of the person that's in charge of the budget and yada, yada, right? And what Trump loves to do when it comes to passing his big, beautiful bill and all the rest of it is announce massive, great tax cuts, and Congress passes the tax cuts, and all of the members of Congress can go back to their districts and say, I gave you a tax cut, and I gave you a tax cut, and everyone is happy with that. Now, in Trump 2.0, we are seeing massive tax hikes, as Emily says, but only in the kind of things that can be unilaterally imposed by the executive branch without going through Congress. Yeah, one of these, I think, Emily, you've hit on something really important here, is that all of these tax hikes that Trump is doing, which are actually kind of fiscally important, are constitutionally incredibly dubious, and the whole edifice of these tax hikes could come crashing down at any minute.
Yes.
I still think it's a little simpler than that. He's expressed admiration for China in different places because he likes the way that the state controls, it's companies internally. He's a little bit of a control freak. This is why, the tariffs don't make any sense. It's just that if he thinks that people owe him something or a company owes him something, and he conflates himself with the US government all the time, he doesn't really understand why he can't go to these companies and say, give me some of this money.
And the fact is that the proof of the pudding is that he can. Like, he's going ahead and he's doing it, and they're saying yes. Like, he went up to Jensen Huang at NVIDIA and said, I want 20% of your chip sales to China. And Jensen had two choices. He could either say, fuck off, that's illegal, or he could say, let's shake on 15. And he said, let's shake on 15. All of these corporations are choosing to deal with Trump instead of fighting Trump. And at least if you judge by the state of the stock market right now, that seems to have been the correct decision.
I want to just think out loud again. So President Trump, the White House, is meddling in the business of private companies, like calling for Jan Hatzius, the economist at Goldman Sachs, famous economist at Goldman Sachs, to be fired, saying that Goldman CEO David Solomon should just stick to DJing, and and meddling with Coca-Cola's formula, whatever. Like, the White House presidents do meddle with companies. Like, the Biden administration, in a very different, much more orderly way, tried to get companies to do what it wanted. Like, for example, with some signature legislation, I think we talked about this. I definitely wrote about it. They tried to tie funding to, for companies to do manufacturing stuff to whether or not the companies had like a plan for like childcare for their employees, stuff like that. And everyone freaked out.
There was the CHIPS Act.
Or the CHIPS Act.
I thought that was a false equivalency, though, because all of those Biden administration plans were incentives. They were saying, we will invest more money if you do this. I don't think that's the same thing as saying, do this or we'll hurt your business. It's a difference between creating an incentive and extorting.
Not getting shot in the kneecap is an incentive.
Sure, extortion is an incentive, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's the difference. It was more carrots than sticks, as they say.
The other big difference between what Biden was doing and what Trump is doing is that Biden at least made a good faith effort to be corporation agnostic, that he would pass laws that applied to everyone. And if you happen to be a massive great chip maker that made, LLM chips or whatever, like, you would get billions of dollars of subsidies. Trump is very explicitly targeting individual companies. He's like, Apple this, NVIDIA that, Intel this, US Steel that. And that kind of picking and choosing, like, I want you to be a national champion. I want to take 15% of your equity. I want you to pay me tribute. And, I will give you an exemption to the tariffs, and I won't give you an exemption to the tariffs, and all of this kind of stuff. It's all done on the basis of his personal relationship with the CEOs of these companies. And we have seen this parade of CEOs passing through the White House over the past 6 months, gripping and grinning and saying lovely things about the president in a way that I literally can't think of a single CEO who did anything like that with Biden.
It's crazy that the libertarians in Congress are not howling about this. All the free market people who kept calling Biden a communist,
But this is actually fascinating to me, because I think this is, how they said that, only Nixon could go to China. I feel like this degree of state control of the economy and the government interfering very explicitly with individual corporations and picking and choosing winners and making direct investments and twisting CEO arms and all the rest of it could not be done by a Democratic president. And I think that as we, like in a weird way, and I think we've talked about this in the past, Trump is a Peronist in many ways. And I think this is a clear example of the way that he can, just like Perón, he can be kind of like left-wing populist and right-wing at the same time. And this is, all of these kind of economic policies are exactly the kind of thing that we, are familiar to people who have been watching Latin America over the past 50 years. But is kind of unusual for people who expect the Republican Party to be the party of free market capitalism. Like, Trump is not and never has been a free market capitalist.
I think that gives him too much credit for consistent ideology. But
well, if you go back to how his father made his money, Suzanne Craig lays out in her book, it was all based on a government program that he was taking advantage of as a home builder. So I feel like the understanding of how the government can confer benefits on private market companies and make people rich is deeply embedded in his DNA, probably.
Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, they're all really good at making billions by basically selling shit to the government.
But so how do we think this, I think people also call it like a command economy, like where the White House sort of tells companies what they can and can do and confers, benefits and privileges on them.
Soon they're going to release a 5-year plan.
How do we think that's going to impact businesses going forward? Is this like knee jerk? I don't want to say like this seems bad for a business trying to operate and make decisions for itself, but maybe there's an upside downside that I'm not.
I think it all depends how long it lasts. I think that if this is a weird aberration, and that if in 3.5 years we revert to some kind of status quo ante, then this will just be some cute, weird historical blip in terms of the history of American capitalism. But if this winds up effectively creating institutions that can be co-opted by all politicians and all presidents, and every future president is going to be like, well, if Donald could do this, then I can do this, then that will radically change the nature of American capitalism. And I have no idea which one is more likely.
I'm a little bit optimistic on this one. I think even if Republicans stay in power, they wouldn't produce necessarily a president like Donald Trump. I think he's sui generis.
I think that's right. But by the same token, I think that the powers that Trump has abrogated for himself in terms of controlling private corporations are definitely powers that almost every president in history would have loved to have, and just none of them thought it was possible.
One thing I think about a lot is that companies hate when the government interferes in so many ways, with regulations, with standards. They were celebrating Trump for, promising to tear down a lot of the rules and regulations set by Biden and presidents before him and administrations before him in terms of environmental regulations, drug safety, health, all that stuff is ongoing. The White House is not interfering in those kinds of things. Financial regulation, out the window, all fine.
What they're losing on one type of government interference, they're gaining on another. So net, they're winding up ahead.
Net, they're winding up ahead, and they prefer it this way. They prefer laissez-faire on financial regulation and health regulation and environmental regulation, and just pay a tithe or whatever to the administration in exchange, because maybe that stuff is more expensive, they think, or more harmful to their bottom lines.
Do they think the bribes are cheaper than the regulation would be?
Maybe. That's what I've been wondering. I don't want to say they're bribes. I mean, whatever this is.
Wouldn't it be great to manage your portfolio on one platform? Well, now you can trade all in one place on Robinhood. That means you can trade individual stocks and ETFs and also buy and sell crypto using seriously powerful and intuitive tools at one of the lowest costs on average without needing to manage multiple apps. Robinhood makes withdrawing and depositing crypto seamless. Send crypto to your Robinhood account or send crypto from your Robinhood account to other wallets without deposit or withdrawal fees from Robinhood. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Network fees may apply to crypto transfers. Crypto transfers may not be available to all customers. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
Slate Money is sponsored this week by Upwork. If you want to scale your business, that's going to require the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, and design who are ready to help you take your business to the next level exactly when you need them. Companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility in the way they staff key projects and initiatives. Upwork's global marketplace is filled with top talent in IT, web dev, AI, design, admin support, marketing, you name it. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. There is no cost to join. You can register, you can browse freelancer profiles, you can get help drafting a job post, you can even book a consultation. And from there, you can connect with freelancers and easily hire them. Upwork makes the entire process simpler and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com. But on that note, I think we should move on to the most Wild West corner of the most Wild West market in the world. So, Elizabeth.
Yes.
Bring us up to speed on the latest in crypto crazy.
So, if you live in New York, you've probably already heard this story, but there was a great New York Magazine cover story this week about something that happened a few weeks ago where two guys who are crypto magnates or consider themselves that, William Duplessis and John Welts, basically kidnapped an acquaintance of theirs in the crypto world and held him hostage at a Soho-based townhouse that they were renting and tortured him for his crypto wallet, which he did not actually give up to them. And he somehow managed to escape, found a cop on the sidewalk, and now these two guys are in trouble. But this is an ongoing problem for people with crypto wallets.
And I didn't realize how in the past year or two it's become a big thing. Apparently in France, especially, like two different men in France actually got kidnapped and had a finger sawed off in an attempt to have their crypto credentials, given up. I thought actually that this would have been like an attempt to saw off the finger and like in the movies and then use it for the fingerprint in the, cold storage on the USB key. No, it wasn't. It was just like literally we're going to take a video of snipping off the finger and the, man was screaming in agony and then we're going to send the finger to the relative and say, give up the credentials. Aww. This is, the New York Magazine piece does a good job of explaining this. If you are in this world where the banks have been disintermediated and you don't have someone else holding your money for you, you hold your money. And if you are a crypto bro who drives around in Lamborghinis and makes it very obvious and has, it makes it very obvious that you are worth hundreds of millions of dollars in crypto, then probably you are smart/stupid enough not to just keep it all in a Coinbase account that can be hacked, but you keep it like offline in some kind of cold storage. There's a USB key or something, and that is your wealth. And the XKCD webcomic famously years ago was like, you can talk about hackers spending huge amounts of time with phishing attempts and password cracking and all the rest of it to try and hack into people's crypto. Or you can do what was known as a $5 wrench attack, which is you bash someone with a $5 wrench until they give you their password. And the $5 wrench attack was this kind of theoretical thing that people were worried about until it became reality. And you are seeing these kidnappings, these very violent kidnappings, of which the one in New York, for all of its salaciousness, was not remotely the most violent, all over the world. And it's really, really hard to defend against. If you have a large fortune in crypto, then your choices are basically, number one, don't spend any of the money and don't show off and make sure that no one knows that you have it, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a large fortune in the first place. Number two, hand over your large fortune to some kind of financial services company, which again is like anathema to the whole thing that crypto folks believe in. Or number three, spend a huge amount of money on bodyguards and personal protection, because you need that just to keep yourself from being kidnapped. Emily is rolling her eyes. She's like, Crimea River.
No, I guess I wonder, I mean, these are horrible stories. I don't advocate for kidnapping.
I'm glad we cleared that one up, Emily. I was worried there for a minute that you were pro-kidnapping.
You're on the fence.
First, I mean, maybe to unpack it. First, like option 2 that you just laid out, that this is so hard. It doesn't seem that hard to just, if you have a lot of crypto, put it with a financial services company that could do a better job protecting it than you can. Seems like just do that. Get over whatever principle you have. It seems simple.
I think that's correct.
One. Yeah. And then two, how common is this? Like, these are horrible stories, thus they get lots of news coverage. And then I was like, how common is kidnapping? I mean, rich people have gotten kidnapped for a long time. Our friend of the pod, Taffy Brodesser-Ackner, just wrote like a big New York Magazine story about, a friend of the family of hers that got kidnapped in the 1970s.
I feel like
that she based a whole novel on.
Got kidnapped in the 70s, though. Like, the 70s was definitely the big decade for kidnapping.
It was a big time for plane hijacking and kidnapping and so forth. But I found some UN estimate from 2017 that said 8,000 kidnappings for ransom globally that year. I mean, it's really hard to find data because rich families don't talk about it, but rich people get kidnapped. It's a thing, So this is just like a new spin on it is what I was thinking.
The idea is that, particularly for these people who are already pretty paranoid and they're keeping their crypto in a cold wallet or something like that, especially if they're sort of public or they're in the crypto world, they're networked with other people who do this, which is how these guys found their victim, who initially they were friendly with, and they were all a little bit paranoid.
Yes.
So they invited the victim to come stay with them, and the victim did because he thought they were all friends. And they decided that because he was a foreign national, that he was the enemy, and they began torturing him. So I think the people who do this,
tortured him. I mean, I have to say, they tortured him in this kind of weird way of, we are going to throw like hookers at you and give you lots of drugs to smoke and actually allow you to come and go from the house, and in fact at one point fly back to Italy and come back.
I have questions about that. How is that being kidnapped if you're allowed to leave the country whilst being kidnapped?
They were they were holding his crypto wallets hostage, and they were like, well, if you go through this hazing and do this, we'll give it back to you. But then I guess it escalated. And then the most amazing detail about to me is that these guys had this sort of posse of young women who all worked at the Brandy Melville store down the street.
Okay, so Elizabeth, you need to clear this out for me, because I'm woefully undereducated when it comes to the whole Gen Alpha phenomenon that is Brandy Melville. Who or what is Brandy Melville?
So Brandy Melville is a fashion brand that's very popular with, tweens and teen girls. And it's because it's very, how do I describe this? Like, kind of skimpy clothing, but it's cutesy. It's a lot of like pink and lace and stuff like that.
For skinny girls.
Yes, that too. And so the Brandy Melville in Soho apparently also employs a lot of people who are modeling part-time. So these guys would just go around the corner and invite all the Brandy Melville girls over to a party. And there was a scene where one of them was poking this guy, the victim, with a cowpoke, and he was screaming. And she later said, she was like, oh, I thought this was just a prank.
Poor Brandy Melville girls.
And there are reports that everyone in the Brandy Melville store was very sad the day after this happened.
Little did we know before we were entered this week that we would be talking about the intersection of severed digits and Brandy Melville, that somehow.
But so do you think this is a problem? Just to wrap up in an orderly way. Is this a real problem, the wrench stuff?
I think actually, Emily, you have persuaded me that option 2 of just give all of your crypto to a trusted financial institution and let them look after it for you is a simple and effective solution to this problem.
Are there any catches there? Is it hard to do that? Is your crypto not safe at Coinbase at a large scale, or does the bank not want to take it? What are how does that work?
I'm not talking Coinbase. I'm not saying keep your crypto online at Coinbase. I'm saying give your cold wallet to your private banker who will put it in a safe.
Oh, literally a safe.
Yeah.
Just put it in a safe.
You remember safety deposit boxes?
Yeah.
They're still a thing, especially in Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
And the downside, and the thing about safety deposit boxes is that bankers are very careful to never know what is in them. So, yeah, I think there are ways of doing it, but the risk is always that your holdings come to light, that the banks have reporting obligations to various authorities, and that therefore various government taxing authorities that you don't particularly want to know about your crypto are going to find out about your crypto, and then they're going to start taxing you on your crypto, which you don't want to do because you're a libertarian.
So there are complications. It's not as simple as put it in the bank or put it in a box. There are things to think about.
Definitely. Especially if you don't like paying taxes, which I'm just going to come out and say that crypto people, even more than normal people, don't like paying taxes.
Also, there's just the OPSEC thing of don't ride around in a Lamborghini and say, I got this because I made so much money in crypto, which seems like what a lot of these people are doing.
Or show up at the club with so much money to spend that they're scrambling to find expensive bottles for you.
Oh my God, that was such an amazing... The clubs were like, oh no, we're running out of $500 bottles of champagne that we can sell for $10,000. Yeah, yes. Amazing. But yeah, what is the point of owning a expensive monkey JPEG if you can't use that as your avatar on Twitter?
That's true.
Slate Money is sponsored this week by LifeKit. Everyone can use a little help to shape the direction of their lives, from fitness routines to mental resilience or navigating personal goals to tackling burnout. That's what the LifeKit podcast from NPR is here to do. If you're looking to move with more intention or just need thoughtful guidance on living better, LifeKit delivers strategies to help you make meaningful, sustainable change. LifeKit offers real stories, relevant insights, and clear takeaways to help you meet those large and small decision-making moments with confidence and clarity. With trusted voices and expert advice, you will be able to take the next step, however big or small. Listen to LifeKit to hear thoughtful conversations that unpack the emotional and practical side of personal wellness, along with actionable guidance. Get help with your relationships, your finances, parenting, your career, then walk away with a game plan you can implement right away. LifeKit isn't just another podcast about self-improvement. It's about understanding how to live a little better, starting now. Listen now to the LifeKit podcast from NPR. Slate Money is sponsored this week by Quince. Why drop a fortune on basics when you don't have to? Quince is a company that has high-quality fabrics, classic fits, lightweight layers for warm weather, all at prices that make sense. Honestly, they're just downright low. I have a bunch of Quince stuff, including not just clothes, but table linens, napkins, anything you want that is like, you want high quality, but you want it to be at a very affordable price, there's a very large chance that Quince will have it in beautiful, simple, timeless colors. Quince has the closet staples you'll want to reach for on a daily basis, like cozy cashmere and cotton sweaters from just $50, breathable flow knit polos, and comfortable lightweight pants that somehow work for both weekend hangs and dressed up dinners. The best part? Everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out middlemen, Quince gives you luxury pieces without the markup. Keep it classic and cool with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/money for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/money to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/money. Emily, is Chrome your default browser?
Of course. Yes, definitely. For the past, I don't even know, a long time. Chrome is my default. It's my life.
How much of your life is spent in or on Chrome?
Oh my God, so much of my life. I just got a new work laptop and I was like, I'm going to have to transfer all these things. It's going to forget everything, all my passwords. Nope. It's all working fine. Chrome knows me very well, knows everything about me. Yeah, it's everything to me. This is the saddest soliloquy of my life. My web browser is everything to me. It knows my passwords.
Oh, wow.
It remembers me. Everywhere I go on the internet, I'm like, oh no, do I have to look up what my password is for this site? And Chrome is like, we got you, girl.
You don't even need an AI bot. You have Chrome.
I don't need an AI bot. I have Chrome. But the AI bots need Chrome, which is why we're talking about it, right?
So Chrome, as we all know, is one arm of the Google empire. Google owns, well, I guess we should call it Alphabet, right? Alphabet owns a huge number of bits and pieces, including YouTube and Android and what's the self-driving car? Waymo?
Yes, Waymo.
And one of the remedies that was mooted as a potential remedy for the antitrust case that is currently wending its way through the courts against Alphabet would be to force Alphabet to divest Chrome. And the interesting thing about Chrome is that Chrome in and of itself doesn't have any revenues attached with it. Like, Emily, how much have you ever paid to have Chrome on all of your devices?
I mean, in terms of my soul, apparently a lot, but in terms of dollars, nothing. It's free. That's crazy.
So
right?
Chrome is an expensive thing to maintain. It's a very sophisticated piece of software. It has no revenues associated with it. And so the standard move from the Google defenders has always been to say, well, divesting Chrome would be terrible because it's an important part of the internet and we, Google, are subsidizing it to the tune of billions of dollars a year and we're giving it away for free. And that's great for the world. And there's lots of positive externalities there. But like, no one else would be able to afford to do this. And it would be terrible if it tried to live on its own because who is going to subsidize all of these billions of dollars? Enter Perplexity AI, which in a kind of mischievous press release basically said, and or possible, like, they gave 3 different exclusives to 3 different organizations at exactly the same time, saying, exclusive, we are bidding $34.5 billion for Chrome. This is not a realistic bid in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, it's not for sale, but they're basically saying this thing has a lot of value. And oi, Mr. Antitrust judge, when you finally rule on this, yeah, there are companies out there who would be happy to pay for Chrome. And then, of course, everyone immediately phoned up Sam Altman and said, would you pay for Chrome? He's like, yeah, I'd pay like double $4 billion. So given the weird math of AI valuations, the amount of money that Chrome loses every year is nothing compared to the amount of money that OpenAI loses every year. And the reach that Chrome gives you is astonishing. You basically wend your way into Emily Peck's very soul. And
Yeah.
yeah. And Perplexity has its own browser called Comet, but about 8 people use it. And like it's very hard for Perplexity to scale Comet. Whereas if they just buy Chrome, then boom, overnight they become the biggest AI company in the world.
Yeah, I mean, Chrome loses money, but it's an integral part of the search business for Google, right? It's driving all of that revenue because I'm going to Chrome every day. It's like my work interface, and I'm like typing whatever I need to type right into the little box, and Google makes lots and lots of money that way. So I feel like to say that Chrome loses money isn't true. It's like the tool they use to make money.
But Google makes money if you use any other web browser too and use it to Google.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And I think what you're saying about AI companies need something like Chrome to get. Actually, I don't know if that's true because do AI companies need a Chrome that has a huge user base to get more people using their technology? I don't know.
Do,
I mean,
because
Perplexity does, but like ChatGPT doesn't. It's
ChatGPT is the one
growth.
exception, right? ChatGPT is the only AI company that really has that massive 700 million strong user base. I think all of the other ones could really use Chrome, and OpenAI, of course, would love it too.
Right.
Yeah, there was one of the tech experts interviewed in one of the pieces we read in the prep said that, the end goal of all these companies is to eventually create a system where you are displacing search altogether in its traditional form and that you never have to go to a website again. You just ask a question, you get sort of perfect results back.
Exactly. Like what we had just very in the big picture was the first World Wide Web as envisaged by Tim Berners-Lee, which was just sites linking to other sites, and you would do this thing called surfing the internet, where you would go to a page and you would read what was on that page, and then you would click on the link, and then the link would take you to a new page, and you'd read what was on that page, and then you click on the link on that page, and so on and so forth. And you would find yourself in weird and wonderful corners of the internet, and it was lots of fun. And that whole model of surfing the internet basically got replaced by search, and also to a certain extent by social media. So instead of clicking on various different websites, now we just scroll TikTok mindlessly, or if we want to find something, we search for it instead of like just clicking on links. And then conceptually speaking, it kind of makes sense that way. If the browser is the window to everything that is possible on the internet, then it makes sense for AI to be completely integrated into that browser so that whatever it is you want just comes straight out of the AI, and if it needs to, from whatever it is on the internet. And that's kind of what Comet promises. And I know I don't actually use Comet myself. I know a couple of people who do. It's like, it seems like an amazing thing. Like the AI is just living in your browser, wherever you go, wherever you browse, it's always there, reading things, understanding things, pointing to you places, helping you, do whatever you're trying to do. I think the execution is still a little bit, early days, but you'd expect that because AI is early days. And eventually, I do think it's entirely plausible that Chrome will have like AI built into it. And the only real question is this going to be a massive advantage for Gemini and Google's AI and DeepMind and all of this sort of Google AI universe? Or is this something that other AI companies like Perplexity or, Claude or whoever can actually compete with?
Well, Chrome already has, Gemini built into it, and that's the first result you get most of the time whenever you Google something.
No, that's Google search. That's not Chrome. No, I think that's an important distinction. Like, if you go to Google search, then Google search Google will throw up AI results. But Chrome is, like, the things that people use Chrome for is 100 times bigger than search, right? We are recording this podcast in Chrome. There's no search involved.
But I have been thinking a lot about search lately. I mean, ever since ChatGPT first dropped, I did a What Next TBD on how AI completely and everyone's talked about how AI has completely disrupted search, and Google has seen search traffic decline because as more people use ChatGPT specifically to search for things. And I use ChatGPT now to do searches I would have done on Google, but it's not there yet as a complete replacement. Like, first, I feel like I'm often using ChatGPT just like I use Google search or Chrome. So I'm like, why am I doing it here? It's not totally clear to me. It doesn't always surface links. So then I wind up having to double check things with Google search to really see if something is true or not. Do you know what I mean? And
although Perplexity,
it's just
to be
not,
fair to it, is slightly better at
is it?
that than ChatGPT is. But yeah, like, you know, for something simple, like yesterday I wanted to know when did Leos Janicek write Catch a Cabana Fair? And like, you can Google that, but then you get a whole bunch of ads and cruft, and the Google UX is now messy enough. If you go to the google.com homepage, Marissa Mayer is like rolling over in her grave somewhere. Like, if you go to the google.com homepage, which used to be this incredibly clean white thing with nothing but a search bar, there's now, you just open it up and it's full of like news stories. You're like, who the hell is asking for news stories on the homepage? But they're like, oh no, this is all part of some business development strategy. You go to the ChatGPT homepage, and that is, you know, the Marissa Mayer dream of plain white nothingness, and all you get to do is just write something in and create your own world.
Yeah, Google search got to go on for like decades without anyone really challenging its dominance. And so, yeah, AI and ChatGPT have really challenged it. And as the decades rolled on with Google search, it got more messy, like you're saying. And there were signs that like search was eroding. Like Amazon is a place where people go to search for things. They don't start at Google necessarily, straight to Amazon to find
Amazon
things.
is so bad.
Not a good user experience at all. Yeah. Or Netflix, or, you know, there's just a lot of other places now to search. That's everyone's complaint. Like, it's hard to really search the internet because there are all these walled off corners. And I guess theoretically ChatGPT or
The ChatGPT is actually terrible at search. Like, for instance, partly because the New York Times is suing ChatGPT, if you are searching for anything where the answer is at the New York Times, you will not find that answer on ChatGPT.
The 7-seat Volvo EX90 is a car made for finding tranquility in midtown traffic, with a serene Scandinavian interior. Made to help avoid potential hazards along city streets, thanks to advanced safety features. And with intuitive technology and Google built in, it's the car made for finding the best bagel in Brooklyn. The fully electric Volvo EX90 is perfect for New York. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more. Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
I want to move on to a numbers round because I have a related number, people. I'm gonna do one of those rare third segment to numbers round segues. My number is 404, and that is the error code that you are going to get after August the 25th if you click on any of the links on the internet that have been shortened using the Google URL shortener. You know how it was like Tiny URL and Bitly and all of those, and T.co. Like, there's a lot of them. But one of the biggest for many, many years was GOO.gl. And I'm sure to this day there are still lots of GOO.gl links dotted around the internet. As of August 25, none of those links are going to work anymore.
Oh no, that's not good for the information age.
Exactly.
That's going to bury a lot of things.
It's
Why
like
are they
Google,
doing that?
Google just kills things. It's like killing Google Reader. They build things and then they kill things and then they break the internet, and they are, doing that thing that they promised they wouldn't be when they went public. Elizabeth, you have a number?
Yeah, my number is 15, and that's dollars. And that's the entry fee for the Crater of Diamonds State Park in Arkansas, where you can go basically mine for diamonds.
Like with a shovel?
What?
So they have a whole operation where you can pan, like you basically, fill a bucket with some dirt and you go over to this old timey kind of tray of water and you sift it out and look for the diamonds. So a New Yorker named Michelle Fox just found a 2.3 carat white diamond there. And she went there explicitly to find a diamond for her engagement ring. And so she camped there for a little under 3 weeks, and she found a 2.3 carat
she was in
white
3
diamond.
weeks? She's been looking for a diamond? Wow.
That's great. So is she going to sell it or use it for her engagement?
She's going to use it for her engagement ring. And the sort of experts say it's probably worth between $10K and $50K.
What? That's amazing.
But how much does she have to spend to get it cut?
That's
And
a
set
good
and
question.
everything. Yeah, that is a good question. I'd sell it and buy a cheaper one.
Well, diamonds are all
Or a
basically
synthetic
worthless.
diamond.
Buy a 2-carat lab-grown diamond. Nowadays, if you can go straight to the source in China, there was a really good FT article about this a couple of weeks ago. You know that most lab-grown diamonds are grown in China these days, and they cost roughly $15 a carat. Is the cost of making a lab-grown diamond.
But then they sell them for more, right?
Well, but the polishing is more expensive than the growing. So polishing and cutting adds a lot. Emily, what's your number?
My number is $21,000. That's dollars. $21,000 is how much in medical bills were racked up by a woman in Massachusetts who was treated for rabies after a bat flew into her mouth.
Emily, did you need to? No.
I feel like that was probably equally unpleasant for the bat.
This woman was out hiking with her father. Erica Kahn is her name, in Massachusetts. I read about this on KFF Health News, Medical Bill of the Week or something like that. They were out hiking and the woman had just gotten laid off. And instead of taking the Cobra health insurance, she was like, I'm young. What could go wrong?
What are
I'll
the
tell
chances?
What could go wrong was that a bat, and apparently bats don't normally fly into people's mouths. We have bats where I live and they fly all around, but they don't fly at you. Something probably is wrong with a bat who flies
bat had
into your mouth.
broken echolocation because that mouth is not going to feed the bat.
I guess
Quite
she
the
gasped or
opposite.
screamed, and that's when it took its shot. Anyways, her dad is a doctor and said, you need to get rabies shots. So she did. Before she went to the doctor, she was like, let me get some health insurance last minute. I'm sure that'll all work out fine.
Having eaten a bat turns out to be a pre-existing condition.
So while that's illegal because the Obamacare fixed the pre-existing condition thing, but there was some clause in the health insurance that it didn't kick in for 30 days. So she got all these bills. And the moral of the story is take the Cobra insurance. And also the end kicker quote of this story, which we can put in the show notes if you want, is, I know what bats taste like now.
Wow.
Chicken?
No, it's an earthy, sweet kind of flavor.
Uh-huh. I had no idea that we were going to end up with the taste of bats, but this podcast winds up in weird and strange places. I don't know whether to thank you for that or not, Emily, but I will thank Jessamine Molli for producing. I will thank Cheyna Roth for producing. I will thank all of the lovely listeners out there who are wonderful and send us emails about whether travel broadens the mind and many other things. Thank you all. The email address, as ever, is slatemoney@slate.com. And we will be back here next week with more Slate Money.
Some things are hard to commit to, like learning how to surf or saving for a family vacation. But one commitment that's easy, switching to Fios Home Internet with a 5-year price lock guarantee. That means 5 great summers of fast, reliable internet at the same low price. All with the Fios 1 gig internet plan. Plus no hidden fees or equipment charges. Call 1-833-VERIZON to switch today. Price guarantee applies to base monthly rate only for new and existing My Home customers.